Elizabeth Watuti. She's a commissioner for the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. But she's also, and I can't say, she's a water warrior from Kenya, a water champion, championing water activism in the context of biodiversity loss, regreening Kenya, setting up initiatives to drive water, but also recognized by the president of Kenya as one of those leaders that helps ensure that the water in Kenya is safeguarded. Liz, welcome. We have Georgita. Yes, you can very much applaud. We have Joyita Gupta. Joyita is professor in Amsterdam, has a background in India, knows everything about law, in the Netherlands we have a Spinoza Prize we call our Nobel Prize for Science. She won last year, the first social scientist that won the Spinoza Prize, so it's important to understand. And Joyita knows everything about the importance of water in the context of justice. When we talk about just and justice, we have to talk about Joyita's interpretation, how it works. Because we can easily talk about the just transition, but before you know it, as you said this morning, it becomes just a transition. Understanding to bring every voice into that process and have everyone being accountable and the mechanisms ready to do so is key. Well, Joyita will not represent the young generation. Her mind and heart are as young as mine, I would challenge. So from the Commission perspective and her work, looking into what intergenerational justice then means. Then we have Neil Andika. Where are you? There are you. Neil also is from the Bali Youth Plan and will tell us way beyond what Karishma already shared, how this is going to work. Neil, thanks so much for joining. It's great that you're with us. And then from the United Arab Emirates, we have Aisha Alatiki. And Aisha is the lead on water within the UAE. Knowing that the UAE has stepped up with Senegal to think about the next UN 2026 conference, last year the UAE launched their water security initiative at the UN in September. And based on this, His Excellency launched a water initiative that started with a water prize, 150 million dedicated to water innovations, but a way larger initiative that will look at water security beyond solutions, but really about empowerment, governance, capacity, the data, the science that is needed. So the UAE as a champion in water in a very arid place of the world, critical for survival. And then from the World Economic Forum, we have Morgan Boer. Morgan is the lead on anything young, you could say, and anything entrepreneurial at the World Economic Forum. With Morgan's help, HCL Technologies set up an initiative called Aquapreneurs, entrepreneurs that work on water. They champion the World Economic Forum with the support of many champion these aquapreneurs in how to reinvent the future and support these initiatives to get to scale and implementation. Morgan is also part of a larger team at the forum that works with us towards the UN 2026 conference and helped us prep not only the Global Commission, but also the 2023 conference. And then we have Marijn Korndewal. Marijn, there you are. Marijn works at the OECD, a champion on water, looking at water quality. And in Europe, I must say, and I'm from the Netherlands, although I live in New York, water quality is at risk because the Water Framework Directive that we have in Europe is seen as a European Brussels burden instead of a baseline for the security of our environment, biodiversity, our health, and our agriculture. So we need the insights on water quality and how to institutionalize that, ensure that those mechanisms are in place in the countries to ensure water quality. And last but not least, Federico Properzi, who leads the UN Water Secretariat. UN Water, when the first time I heard about UN Water a long time ago, I thought that this is this amazing, massive institute with, I don't know, 500 people working across all these agencies, working on water because water is everywhere in everything of the UN. Turns out that it's a very small secretariat, it's very nimble and tries to coordinate all the different interests of these agencies into empowering the UN to step up. And I must applaud Federico and his colleagues that without that institutional mandate, without an agreement, with a UN conference on the horizon and just one a year ago, that UN Water is able to propel water importance across the UN, while that has not been institutionalized. You will come up with your system-wide approach. It's been agreed upon, will be presented at the high-level political forum. And you're a key partner for anyone, the UAE, but also for the Netherlands and Tajikistan in the last conference, to ensure that we kept water high on that agenda. More to come. And I hope we can close with Barbara Pompili. She might come in the end. Since we started late, she actually probably will come at the end to close us and tell us a little bit more on the One Water Summit. So, without further ado, Liz, please share your insights and what you want to bring to this conversation, both from the Commission as well as your own perspective.
Thank you so much. I want to begin by sharing my perspective, especially while we're having this conversation. And first, we know half of the world's population is actually below the age of 30. And in sub-Saharan Africa, where I come from, that figure goes higher to about 70%. And what that means is that today's challenges that we're facing are mostly impacting the young generation. And in fact, to a bigger extent, also the children. And that means we have to address the needs of today, but at the same time, we need to prepare for the challenges of the future. And who are the future? It's the young people, the children who are affected by the challenges today. But we also need to make sure that they are part and parcel of the conversation, not just in terms of representation, but also in terms of shaping the decisions that are going to be key in terms of shaping that future where we belong. And I think one of the key components, we have started a campaign which we're going to announce today around the Youth Water Agenda. And this is to make sure that young people are part and parcel of this process. And we're not just rich in terms of the numbers, but also in terms of the perspectives, the skills and the innovations that different young people are leading around the world and also across different places in the globe. And I think with this Youth Water Agenda, it's going to be an opportunity for the young people to be part and parcel of decision making and to be part and parcel to actually, you know, with the report, for instance, to be provocative in a way that we can actually propose forward-looking approaches of where do you move from here. Because for sure, when it comes to the impacts of climate change, the impacts of, you know, biodiversity degradation, we can already see the realities today. I have had 2 scenarios myself where I've had instances of being with frontline communities that have been greatly affected by drought. And these are impacts that includes loss of lives and loss of livelihoods. And right now, the same communities are now affected by extreme flooding situations that have wiped away their homes, that have wiped away their livelihoods, they've wiped away everything they've always known. But that doesn't mean that all is lost. I'm a strong believer that we still have an opportunity to change course while we still can. And I think that's the same power in the young people. The power to believe in the possibilities of making change happen, but making change happen right now and not waiting until, you know, things get worse. So I think this is an opportunity that we have, but at the same time, we need to advocate more to make sure that we are not just talking about young people in terms of, you know, just the inclusion or rather to tick the box, but we bring in the perspectives, we bring in the innovations, we bring in all these different perspectives that the young people are undertaking and make sure that that can be scaled up to be part and parcel of the change that we want to create. And I think this platform allows us to do that. And the other aspect is that the young generation has turned to be the most vocal generation of this time. And vocal in terms of holding leaders to account, vocal in terms of holding different, you know, businesses, corporates, individuals to account to make sure that we are doing this together. And this is also because if we are not in it together, we're not going to be able to achieve everything that we need to achieve. And we know water connects us all. And for us to be able to achieve everything we want to achieve, we definitely need and have to work together. And I think that is a really important role and perspective that we bring in as young people. And the other component is we're not going to achieve even our climate targets without nature. We need to have that interconnected approach that looks in all this perspective that allow us to address all the solutions from the root causes, but at the same time, allow us to address all the solutions and meet all our targets at the same time. I think for many times, nature loss, climate crisis, all these things have been treated in silos, but there is an opportunity to address all these things collectively and at the same time make sure that we are creating a future that is habitable and a future that is livable for this generation. And I think the other approach is around, we don't want to just, respond and react to what is happening right now without having the future in mind, without having the challenges that are coming in mind. And I think our perspectives in this case will be very important. So I think for me, it's an invitation to all the young people from all corners of this globe. Let's join hands and remind everybody that water connects us all. And unless we work together to make sure that we address this, water is a common good, then it's going to be difficult for us to create that future and that planet that is habitable and livable for all of us. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Liz. At the end, we'll hear about the campaign and where that will land. Important to understand that this is beyond including in decision making. This is including the ideas and showing the pathways forward by working together. I think that is key. Also, the part on response versus proactiveness, more or less. We find ourselves currently around the world in, you could say 99% we're responding to what's happening. And literally that means if you respond to something that happens, you put your back against the future. Because you look back at what happened and you try to recover or restore. And if policymakers and decision makers and financiers are putting their back against the future, the only thing they come up with is repair. And that repair, with a chic word, might call maladaptation, but it's putting band-aids on wounds that are not touching upon the root causes in that repair. So responding is key in de-risking current needs, but it needs to happen in the context of a future orientation. So that long horizon should drive the solutions that we bring to bear on the ground, even in the worst situations everywhere. Because those response mechanisms that only bring us back are not there for the future. Joeita, the floor is yours. What do you, as the other generation, bring to the context of this intergenerational perspective?
Thank you. So if I look at the story of intragenerational justice, intergenerational justice, and interspecies justice, I think you need to look at all three before you can make your narrative work. So this is the first point, okay? And then I have a second point. And the second point is that given that we have certain safe planetary boundaries, these safe planetary boundaries are not just, because these safe planetary boundaries prevent the tipping of various ecological systems, but they do not prevent harm, irreversible harm to countries, communities, and people. And so you need just planetary boundaries. And that was the figure, I think, that Henk showed in his advertisement a little while ago of the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. Now, our research shows that we've crossed 7 out of the 8 safe and just boundaries, which means we have to go back into the boundary, right? And yet, we have not met the needs of the minimum of the poorest worldwide, which means we have to not only go back into the boundary, we have to meet the minimum needs of people. And that basically is not something you can do purely with technology. So this brings me to the bad news. And the bad news is that the research shows us that no matter how much technology you use and how circular you become, you cannot make a circular energy system. You can make a renewable energy system, but it's not circular because you need new resources and you're going to end up with energy that dissipates. So energy cannot be made circular. Food cannot be made circular within the system. Of course, it's circular within the entire planet. And this basically means that we need not just technology and innovation, we need massive changes in consumption patterns worldwide. So that's the bad news. And when I talked to youth in India last January, was with Hilma, you're telling the youth in India, actually, they cannot aspire to the lifestyle I was able to aspire 30 years ago because things have changed. So that's the bad news. Then coming to the third point, which is referring a little bit to what Liz was saying, which is youth. Youth is not a unified concept. I've been teaching youth for the last 35 years. They're very different. I teach students from the global north, and in IHE Delft, I teach students primarily from the global south. And they all have very different aspirations. They do not always want to share resources with each other. They are fighting with each other as much, in fact, as seniors, as adults, as older generations, middle-aged people do. So the question is, when youth come together and say, we have one voice, it's not one voice. And when you get yourself activated and when you get a large movement, you will find that you are just as much in disagreement with each other as the global NGOs are. Development NGOs fight environment NGOs, northern NGOs fight southern NGOs. They just can't get their act together. So youth will have this big challenge. Do we have one voice? And if we have diverse voices, are we actually fighting each other and, in fact, neutralizing each other in the process? So that's the big challenge for youth. And another big challenge for youth is who elected you? Who nominated you? So if I stand here as a scientist. I'm not elected by anybody. I stand here by virtue of my publications, my knowledge. But if you say you're representing youth, who elected you? If you're representing farmers, who elected you? So there's a big legitimacy issue that faces youth when they stand up and say, we represent youth. And so this is something that you have to figure out, that when you come to the stage in the future, how do you create proxy indicators of legitimacy that enable you to be stronger? And lastly, how do you come up with clear solutions? What do you want the other generation to do? Do you want us to pack up and go home and stop consuming? What do you want us to do? So it's really important not only to say we want voice, but to tell us what you want us to do or what you want others to do and to get it together. It's not an easy job because we've tried very hard in the past to get people together and it's not easy. But here we are, all of us trying to make a better world.
Thank you, Jurita. You're still hopeful, because I know you a bit, not a lot, but a bit. And I think your first point is the challenge is way more complex than we see. We talk about resource depletion, biodiversity destruction, climate change impact. But if we take a look at through a justice lens, we see that safeguarding these boundaries is not enough. And even if we safeguard them within just boundaries, we still lose out on hundreds of millions of people that are below the line. So it's a double whammy in that context that we have to overcome, which is doable, but we have to make sure that our perspectives are there. Restoration, maintaining sustainably those just boundaries and taking care of the ones that are really at the front line is key. Second is that changing the world does not come with technology or does not come with technology alone. It's cultural. And a cultural shift in how we live is necessary. It's also a cultural shift in how we govern, I guess. Our policies are drafted and our legislation. And that perhaps steps into the last part where you say, how are we going to do this together? What are the mechanisms that we can reinvent to make sure that accountability, legitimacy, representation are there? And I think, but this is something perhaps we can discuss. What are the new forms for that? Because the old forms failed us. Our accountability mechanisms, our way of representation, the legitimacy that came with it is not bringing us to this these just transitions and a just world. So we can't fight that challenge with what we have. So perhaps later you can tell us a little bit what we then can do to make sure that we come up with these new initiatives. Thanks. Neil, please join us. Tell us from the Bali Youth Plan, what's in it for you and what do you bring beyond Bali, I guess, because you're not only doing it for here, you're doing it for something beyond. So share with us your perspective. Neil.
All right, thank you very much, Heng, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure talking here. When you first asking the audience in here who is above 40s and who is below 30s, so I'm in transition, yeah. So I'm not young, not senior, so I don't know where I am, yeah. So yeah, I'm right now as a part of the Bali Youth Plan in here with Karisma and all the youth delegates from the World Water Council. We are compromised of at least 27 working groups from all of the organization all over the world, and we are here trying to consolidate our thought regarding the waters. Yeah, particularly how can youth contribute more into the water resource management and planning and management. So in Bali Youth Plan, we are thinking beyond the 10 World Water Forum, because personally from myself and also from all of my friends, we are thinking that this is not the end, particularly for Indonesia, but this is the starting point where we need to work harder to make sure that everything that we plan, everything that we discuss in this forum can be implemented in the real world. It's not just talking, discussing, and then we forget after we got out from the room. So from the Bali Youth Plan, we have several targets that or maybe milestones that we would like to achieve. For example, maybe when you disseminate the book about the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, we can add or contribute more about the contents. And also maybe we can add something more for the next World Water Forum. I believe it's in Saudi Arabia. We hope it's not stopped here. We can pass the baton all from the first one and then the Senegal, the last one, and also this part. Particularly, we have 4 points that we would like to contribute from the Bali Youth Plan. The first one, of course, because youth, the main object or the main job is about education. Yeah, when we are talking youth below 30s, we have to include the children and also child from the elementary school, middle school, and high schools. So we would like to improve the job opportunities and also academic opportunities for all of people, because water is the responsible of everyone. So we cannot just disseminate or educate the people who have high grades in the high school or middle schools, but everyone, including the grassroots, maybe the poor community, and also the indigenous people, and also from all the marginalized people, they have the same education. That's what we hope, and we would like to emphasize on that. And then the second one is that we would like also the transforms the inclusions and also the consultation about the decision making in the water resource management. Yeah, we already try to speak or voice our ideas about that several times, in several conferences. But based on my own experience, I think it's better that if we can have more close, intimate settings to voice out our ideas rather than in the big conference. Because I think if we have a more intimate discussion like this, I think our voices is more clearer and the people can understand, and really we can have a better understanding between each other, particularly from the seniors, youth, adult, and children, and everything. And then the third point is that we would like to have more supports in leadership and entrepreneurships. Yeah, as you said that there are so many youth that have innovations, ideas regarding the problems, maybe in the regional or in the local settings. So by giving more support to us, I believe that we can solve all of the problems in the fields. Yeah, because we cannot tackle the big problem, but we can mince it to smaller pieces, and then we can tackle it one by one to solve it very accurately. And then the fourth one, of course, we are very sad with the happens in the world, particularly in the Middle East right now. So we would like to once again voice out that water should not be used as a weapon. So we have to once again understand that water is a human's rights. Everyone needs water. No life, no water, no life, no growth. So we should not cut off the water, the water needs for people, and we need to ensure that everyone's regarding, the gender, the economics, power, and everything, they can still have waters. Everywhere and anytime. That's the point. And and when we are talking about the intergenerationals, I always talking because, as I said, I'm in transition between the youth and also the adults. Yeah, I believe that we need to keep respect each other. You know, we as a youth sometimes wants to do something very fast. Maybe we would like to rebel by what the older generation say to us, but in a fact, we still need your wisdom and guidance about what should we do, how we should approach the problems. So we need to keep talking between each other and not neglecting each role that we have. So I think that's the most important things, that we need to keep respecting each other, keep struggling, keep learning, and keep experiencing everything in the world. And please enjoy the process to do the water resource management. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. That is clear. It's also an agenda that goes way beyond this forum, as you say. When you talk about education, transformation, leadership support for the innovations and the opportunities, as well as, of course, let's not weaponize water, although we do, and how to figure out how water can be a unifying force and not a division. And to that latter point is what you say, let's continue to reach across generations and not create a divide. And I think the focus on intergenerational is also everything you touch upon on that learning capacity is key. Okay, let's hear from Ayesha Alatiki from the UAE. UAE started this massive water initiative way back, but it's now amplified by a large commitment from the leadership, but also in the initiative. Share with us what we can learn from you and how intergenerational work is important in that initiative.
Thank you so much, Henk, for the invite. And similar to you, I'm also in the transition period. So I've outgrown the youth generation, but I'd like to consider myself a youth member of the more older, experienced generation. So thank you so much today for the invite. So I work for the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, which is a recently launched global initiative by the UAE to address global water scarcity. The initiative aims to elevate the importance of water scarcity on the global agenda. I know we've seen this year, this global awakening on water, and this is very promising. However, we want to continue and make sure that water scarcity is high and elevated on the global agenda. We also aim to accelerate the development and deployment of water technologies to address water scarcity, and we want to facilitate more international cooperation. So the initiative is quite young. We're just 2 months old. But the importance of water scarcity is not something new to the UAE. It is something that my ancestors have have lived through. So it's very historic, and from the very beginnings of even before the inception of the country. So the region is one of the most water scarce regions. So we understand the issues quite well. The UAE is extremely keen on ensuring that water is accessible to everyone. One of our first initiatives or projects from the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative is the launch of the world's largest prize in collaboration with the X Prize Foundation, which is X Prize Water Scarcity. It is made possible with the investment of $150 million by the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, with a prize purse of $119 million to ensure reliable, sustainable, and affordable water through desalination technologies. Now, I'm very well aware that we strongly believe that technology is not the silver bullet to address water scarcity, and we will need solutions that are more catered to water management and governance and equity. But it's a technology that we believe, given that it was one of the solutions that we used and it helped us strive and helped us survive. So, but we want to make sure that we can create a technology, we can kind of help reimagine this technology and introduce a solution to the world, and especially to water scarce countries, from middle to low income countries, that we can provide a solution that provides access to water that's more affordable and sustainable. So I'd like to invite you to please read about the competition. Registration is open. And in regard to youth, so we are very honored in the UAE to be hosting the UN Water Conference 2026 alongside Senegal. My colleagues from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are actually participating at the World Water Forum to really engage with as many stakeholders to really understand what are the items of importance and what are the prioritization areas. While they're still in the very early stages of preparation, what I can say is the UAE had a very long-lasting tradition of involving youth. We have a youth federal authority that set a mandate, a youth national mandate, that ensures that the kind of mandates that youth are involved across all sectors. So from space to energy to AI, youth are involved in terms of decision support, empowering decision making, ensuring that we create platforms for them to voice their opinions, and also help shape governmental strategies and implementation and execution of projects. So and the UAE had ensured that youth are involved across all sectors. So water will not be any different. We will need youth in terms of water action to address water scarcity. I think the UN Water Conference, and to ensure the success of the UN Water Conference 2026, youth will have a vital role to play. I'd like to also add that I think and I believe that programs such as the Bali Panel Youth Plan, the Bali Youth Plan, and the COP28 Youth Negotiation Program are such programs that we will help us really create that intergenerational capacity building. I really believe that water resonates a lot with youth, and they are very concerned in terms of pressing action on water. And it's very important to bring in youth, not because I believe they always know the right answers, but because they might be able to help us ask the right questions. So I think while there might not be a silver bullet to address water scarcity, there is definitely one to ensure in terms of achieving stronger outcomes, to make sure youth are involved in the conversation, are in the room. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you so much, Ayesha. Thank you so much for sharing the initiative, the leadership from the UAE that focus on solutions but also institutionalizing the conditions, the environment around them to make sure that they work. And within that, even institutionalizing youth engagement in that context. So taking that core serious towards the next conference is going to be critical, and embracing the Bali Youth Plan as a way forward. Thanks so much. I also think there's always a lot of talk that, so my father was an engineer, architect, but the innovator, but my mother was an activist. And you need them both. We can't do without solutions. So tech is not bad, but it's not a silver bullet. And tech development by tech is perhaps the worst. But in the context of a collaboration, it can really help understand nature, the environment, but also technology. So there is always, when things become single focused in a conversation, only young, only old, only energy, only water, then things totally go wrong. Only tech, only environment. But if you combine so holistic approaches and inclusive approaches, which are perhaps the most complex because there is not enough trust, there's often not enough transparency and accountability. The rooms are complex to have these conversations. But if we continue to focus on what integration and inclusivity really mean in practice, then technology is part of that. So, Morgan, talking about technology. Morgan Bouher from the World Economic Forum. Tell us what you can share and what we can learn from you and your initiatives.
Yes, thank you, Hank, and thank you so much to the rest of the Commission and the OECD and the World Water Council for putting on this session today. It's such a critical topic, like my colleagues and peers that have already spoken have mentioned, and so I'm very pleased here to share with you some of what the World Economic Forum is doing on this agenda. I think one thing I wanted to start with, because I don't need to harp on the interconnectedness of water with all of these other issues like energy, like food security, like nature and biodiversity, because we all are very aware of these connections. But I did want to share one tidbit that I thought was quite interesting from the forum's global risk report on what youth are thinking about these issues, because we survey a very wide crowd of people for this report to assess what people are thinking about the top 10 risks that we are facing in the next 2 years and the next 10 years. And in many years recently, environment is always top of mind, but particularly for the younger generation. So they are increasingly ranking the environmental risks higher than their older counterparts, which I think was quite interesting. And I just wanted to call that out here today to say that the youth are interested in this topic. They want to see action and they know the kinds of risks that we're facing. But the thing that we found through our Aquapreneur Innovation Initiative is that they also bring a very different lens to the conversation. We have the privilege every year of selecting 10 aquapreneurs or water-focused entrepreneurs to receive a prize of $1.75 million in total among the 10 of them, and also support from the World Economic Forum ecosystem and their partners from our private sector, public sector, NGO. And every year we also bring a few of them to Davos. And so it's very fascinating and very amazing to see how quickly the conversations in the Davos Forum shift as soon as you bring in those younger voices, the innovative voices, the solutions-oriented people. And so I think in a space like water that can seem very full of complex problems that are difficult to solve, the aquapreneurs are very inspiring, and I think they really show what opportunities are available in water. And so I actually wanted to share with all of you today that, in fact, only about an hour ago, we launched our third challenge within this initiative. And so this year, we'll be focusing on the topic of water quality in many forms. And so we'll have to connect. We've already spoken from my OECD colleague, but we're looking at water pollution at the source, water pollution in the home, how can we improve drinking water quality? And so very diverse range of topics, looking for very interesting solutions from data management and assessment to filtration and on-site reuse and recycling. And so my call to action for all of you here today is to, one, partner with us on this initiative. Like we've said, technology is not the silver bullet. You need the enabling policy ecosystem. You need the partners at the table to help these innovations scale to a wider lens. Many of them are very successful in their local geographies, and they're ready to scale to the more global area. So we're looking to partner with you. Please get in contact if you feel as if you're a part of that enabling ecosystem, which I know all of you are. And then 2, I invite you to please apply. If you have an innovative technology that's focused on improving water quality and limiting water pollution, please get in touch. We want to hear from you. We'd love to get you involved, and we'd love to have you be a top innovator this year. And then I also wanted to just say that this initiative we're working with the Global Commission and involving the aquapreneurs in this initiative because they've come together with a very excellent set of recommendations for us all to come out September. And we've gotten a sneak preview from Hank and the team, and we have a lot of work to do. And we feel that the technology and innovation ecosystem is really one lever to pull. So we're very excited to be working with the Commission on this and very excited to work with all of you. Thank you so much.
The third challenge, that brings me to something that was also mentioned in the context of the Bali Youth Plan, the work the UAE is doing, and now what the WEF is doing, that consistency, continuity, and commitment are key. We love our ideas, and then we go on to something else. Governments are very good at that. They pilot hop around the world, like island hopping. And it's also because change in politics, but it's definitely also that we can't stick to the promises and the commitment to really solve issues at the root causes. I think if you focus on creating an enabling environment, you create the opportunity for consistency, continuity, and commitment. The challenge in that enabling environment, of course, that transparency and accountability have to be there, and who do you represent has been discussed. But that continuity is key. So compliments for already the third batch of aquapreneurs, and focusing on that ecosystem for those aquapreneurs, not only on the solutions, but really making possible, ensure that there's an enabling environment around it. And thanks, of course, for championing the Global Commission in the context of the World Economic Forum discussions to be able to influence decision makers. Marijn, Cornwall, water quality was already mentioned, which is great. Tell us a little bit more beyond water quality, what the OECD is focusing on and what you are focusing on when it comes to intergenerational water.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm youth. I won't be youth anymore in 2 months and 6 days from now, so this is my time to shine. And then it's over, I guess. No, it won't be. Yeah, I would really like to make a plea for water quality. Also, I would like to talk to the commissioners to please include water quality in the work of the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, and to all the youth water agendas. I think water quality is really important. Just getting out some statistics. Women and children are more likely to die from water pollution than men. This is a fact. This has been researched. Nothing to add on this. When we look at micropollutants, emerging chemicals in water, this is a huge issue, and especially youth are affected, simply because smaller bodies are more susceptible to contaminations, to contaminants. It's also important for youth in transition. When we look at youth between the age of 30 and 40, they're looking to start families. Poor water quality can affect fertility. It can affect babies' health. So it is an important topic. And lastly, when we look at, for example, antimicrobials and their overuse of pharmaceuticals, we call this antimicrobial resistance. I think as youth, we should be asking ourselves, when water is polluted, can we still use drugs? Can we still use antibiotics in the future, or have the previous generations used it all up, polluted the environment so that we can't use it anymore? So I just want to make sure that we all know it's really important. Lastly, previous generations have left us with chemicals in aquifers, in sediments. It's really difficult to clean those up. And we are doing the same to future generations. So also as us, as youth, me as youth, I am a polluter. So we have to be aware that we also have a role to play for our future generations. I just want to make sure that we all know why water quality is important to youth. Now, what can we do? And also, what is OECD doing? First of all, at OECD, we say, and I totally agree with this, when we pollute water and when we undervalue water, we are actually transferring costs to future generations. If we don't operate and maintain our wastewater treatment plants, the polluters will get into the water. Who will pay the cost is future generations who will have to pay the cost for the maintenance and operations of these plants, constructions of these plants. So here's an important part that we should be aware of, that the costs are actually transferred to future generations. It was the same for subsidies on agricultural inputs, on water use. If they continue to exist, if we are not aware that the cost the people paying for these subsidies are actually future generations, there might be an issue of intergenerational risk. But I'm looking here as Joyita. Justice. Here we go. So what can we do? What can we do as youth, and what should other generations do as well? I think, first of all, when we pollute the environment, look at the source of these pollutants. Look at the chemicals going into water. Look at the products that we use. Make sure that we use safe products. We don't overuse pharmaceuticals. It is an issue, and it can really make a great difference. Also, at the source, make sure that polluters pay. So polluters pay the cost for the quality of our water bodies, the damage done to biodiversity, and the damage done to future generations. Second, we can also tackle pollution during use. Again, young people have a big role to play. We love cosmetics. We use TikTok. But also the cosmetics that we use, they end up in water bodies, either through treatment plants or untreated. We can make a difference by the choices that we make in our daily life. And of course, if we look at wastewater treatment, it's an important factor. So we should hold our governments, our mayors accountable to keep investing in wastewater treatment plants, to make sure that agriculture is done properly according to the rules of the game, to really reduce the impact on the environment and on our own well-being. And lastly, please let's ask for our governments to monitor water quality. We always say we need more data. Again, we don't always know what's in the water. There are great initiatives nowadays with new monitoring systems. There's also an initiative in the European Union called Digital Freeze. So they take a snapshot of the water quality today. Maybe in 20 years' time, we would like to refer back to this snapshot to know what's actually in there. So even if we store these water samples so we know in the future what is happening, we already have a good reference and that we can act upon in the future. I have so many more points, but I think I'm going beyond my time, aren't I? No, let me stop here. But yeah, so please include water quality. I think it's highly important, and I look forward to discussing this with you further. And thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Water quality is a driver for disastrous impacts. It's a little bit challenging when the polluter pays, when the polluter has enough money to pay, then the pollution doesn't stop. So stopping at the source where things go wrong is key, and whatever needs to happen for that. And again, partnerships can help, but accountability and transparency is key. And if then in the context of Europe, we lower our standards, before you know it, we're lost. We started late, so we're running late. This is what happens. My last panel started half an hour late because one of the ministers was half an hour late. So, but Federico, you're in a rush. I want to give you the floor, give you and Water's perspective, and then open up the floor for some discussion.
Thank you very much, Henk. What to say? First of all, a couple of reflections on what was just said. The legitimacy question, I had never thought about that, but it's a very good one. And so then I thought, how does it work in UN Water? So we have a couple of youth organizations which are partners in UN Water, so they elect their representatives in UN Water. So that's how it works, and this is how they get the legitimacy. And then the neutralizing each other also made me think. So now I will rephrase the UN Water's mission as helping our dear UN colleagues and the UN entities not to neutralize each other. I think this is something that I really do. Okay. Then the UN conference last year, I think for us was one of the best things ever. We were waiting for it. And there were very good things coming out of it. The water action agenda, and also internally that created so much momentum that, for example, now we will launch a UN system-wide strategy. This will really help us keep everybody together, will give really a vision and a sense of purpose. The conference was, I think, very inclusive. There were very different pathways for the youth to be engaged. So certainly next time it will be even better. And so I have one request to the young ones like us and the younger ones to please help us all together to keep, in my case, the UN system accountable, okay? Push for them to work together so that we can all deliver. And another good thing that the last year's conference brought us was the World Water Day campaign, and especially the hummingbird tale. So bear with me if you heard it already, okay, please. But I think it's something very nice to finish. So, you know, it's a Peruvian tale from the Quechua people. So the forest is on fire, and so all the animals are afraid, and they run away. Okay, and there is a very little hummingbird with a drop of water in the beak, flying into the fire and dropping the water on the fire, and then doing it again and again. And the other animals are telling the little hummingbird, "You're crazy, run away. Your life is in danger." And the hummingbird says, "Look, I'm doing what I can." Okay. So you remember Steve Jobs? Yeah, of course you do. He said, you know, stay foolish, be hungry, but I would like to add, be a hummingbird, the hummingbird. We all need to be the little hummingbirds. And thank you. Thank you, Hank, for inviting me.
Thank you, Federico. I know nothing about hummingbirds' intergenerational capacity, but I believe they're good. Thanks, Federico. Thanks so much. I know you have to run. Okay, we started late. I hope we can run a little bit over time, if that is okay, to take some questions, perhaps from the floor. Yes.
Thank you. I have a question for Joyita. She did mention about legitimacy, accountability issues, and difference of opinions. What's the harm in diversifying opinions? I mean, what's the harm in having different opinions?
Okay.
There's no harm in having different opinions. The problem is that you may not be able to solve any problems. So look at the climate change negotiations. Rich and poor countries are fighting with each other. Within the Netherlands, we have different parties. They are fighting with each other. And you're saying you're going backwards and forwards. So we were moving forward right now, and now we've gone backwards to the new elections. You'll see that again with Trump. So the problem with different storylines is not that we don't want diversity. We want diversity, but very often we are just canceling each other out. And that's the problem. No, it's not specific for the youth. But the youth is not monolithic. So when we come back and say, we as youth are going to do this, the question is whether different youth will have different perspectives and will cancel each other out. So one will say, I don't want you to eat meat. And the other one will say, I want to eat meat. And then you end up with nothing moving forward.
So
it's the same problem that we are having as adults.
I agree. So if you don't cancel opinions, and I mean, if you cancel opinions and if people try to put them back, then don't you think that cuts down the liberty of having, different, how do I say? So there's a spectrum and there are four.
I'm not against democracy. I think we need to have democracy. I'm just saying that if I speak as a scientist, I'm just representing my views as a scientist. But if somebody says I'm speaking on behalf of youth, who elected that person? That's what I'm saying. It's a different story. If a youth says I'm speaking on behalf of my personal views and my knowledge, or I'm speaking on behalf of the Bali youth, that's a community and you're speaking on behalf of a youth. But if you say I'm speaking on behalf of youth in general, Who are you representing? I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying, think about these things. That's all. Because we also got questioned like that. If I said I stand on behalf of the global scientists, that's complete nonsense. No one in the global scientific community has selected me to represent them. So I'm just representing my scientific views. That's all I'm trying to say.
To you and to you.
So, good afternoon. My name is Francesco Corvaro, the special envoy of the Italian government. And I don't know if you know that Italy is working to introduce the youth inside the main topic of climate change. If I can give you an advisor, because I am not a politician, I am a university professor. The thing that I don't find inside the room of negotiator is this. My colleagues are not able to create bridge, are not able to create real dialogues, because we are in the situation that we have now for climate change, not because we don't have technologies or solutions. I am an engineer, like your father. Yeah. So we have the technologies, but sometimes we are not able to speak with the other parties for a lot of reasons. Youth has passion, you have a lot of capabilities, but you have these great capabilities to have the possibility to open the bridge, to open the borders, and to discuss with everyone. This is what I didn't find inside this room. My advisor is, as told Federico, push a lot, because you can have a lot of space in this. I am working with my Italian government to give you these opportunities, because you have the capabilities to do this. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, push.
Thank you so much. My name is Meghna and I'm coming from India. And my network is called South Asia Young Women in Water. We are a newly established network. I just wanted to use this platform to highlight something that we are missing among all the pavilions. We are missing South Asian representation. And also I wanted to bring to your notice that you will see very few South Asian faces among all the participants here. And I wanted to build upon what Joyita ma'am said. And I totally agree with you, ma'am. I come from a small town in India, and I am one of the very, very fortunate ones who did not go out of India to study, to be able to attend these conferences, because that is usually what happens. And I really feel that I always miss out on opportunities because I'm not from Delhi or any metro city. I'm from a tier 2 city, and I don't even get the opportunity to attend such. And this is, I'm talking in 2024, when we are talking about technological advancements and intergenerational, this, that, inclusive. Where is the inclusion? Because people in my town are the ones who are actually suffering. The communities who are at the last mile, they are the ones who are suffering, and they are not getting the platforms. They are not getting the opportunity to speak. Those youth are not getting the opportunity to speak, who are actually toiling in the sun, who are working in the fields, who are facing the consequences of water scarcity because they have language limitation. They do not have the opportunity. We are not accommodating these voices. So when we are talking about inclusion, we are talking about water conference, UN conference, everything. Where is the platform? And I just wanted to highlight this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there a
She's raising the legitimacy issue. She's
Right.
saying
Yeah, yeah.
when youth are representing,
Yeah.
are they representing South Asia?
Yeah. And how can we then ensure that we bring those voices in? Eh? That's also, I mean, I don't have the answer, but nobody has, but it's really important to look beyond what you have. That's perhaps also what you say. Look beyond what you have to make sure that what you say is not on behalf of everyone, but that you continue to figure out what inclusion means as a verb. Yeah, representation, but also the process of bringing others with you. Because you are here, which is amazing, but you immediately put to the table that others are not. And how do you figure out that that voice is not only heard, but represented? And that we find ways and mechanisms to make sure that that has happened. That that's leaving no one behind is not something abstract. No, it's here. You practice it. Even if we try, it's important. So thank you. Others, yes.
Hi, I'm Rifda Marina. I'm social economic agriculture engineer from IPB. Bogor. So I come here. I have a farm plantation, fruit plantation. Actually, I do change from palm farm to fruit farm to help poor people in the areas very poor in Banten, Indonesia. It's not too far from Jakarta, around 3 hours from Jakarta. And in 5 years, I can increase the water security inside in our farm from 120 meters under land to 80 meters now because of a system of agriculture farm from chemical to organic, from palm farm to fruit farm, from the how to treat the land can increase the water, but I can do only for my farm around 300,000 square meters. But beside my farm, a lot of poor people needs accessibility to water. So I come here by myself, represent my company and myself to, to get the support. Maybe some countries or NGO from around the world can help a farmer to get the water in Banten. Before I joined the presentation like this in Friends Pavilion, and one of their speaker, he's doing like I'm doing, but in Palu. Palu is in the middle of Sulawesi. Before they have a tsunami, and accessibility to water is so difficult. But now they get water because the Friends NGO help them. Maybe.
Did you make a connection there?
Yes, but
Very good.
they cannot help for other place because they focus for Palu.
Okay.
Palu is one of our province. So maybe if you have connection to someone, can do to Pandeglang. Actually, I already talked to Neil.
The Italians just offered help.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to the perspective. Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Faisal. I'm from Pakistan. I'm also going to highlight the same issue of representation. Like when we say worldwide, so we they are actually country who actually missed out. We don't get the opportunity to came to represent, and also we are also the one of those who are actually suffering a lot because of the issue of climate change, facing the water issue. And there was like a question like how we can get the opportunity to represent. So I'm just going to add on that, like I am the youth representative. So this World Water Forum gave us the opportunity. They opened the forum for the youth worldwide, like give us your motivation to came to the World Water Forum. So we applied with the motivation, like I am actually working in the Water Ministry of the Punjab, Pakistan. So World Water Forum gave us the opportunity to came here to represent as a youth. So this can be happen to other water forum, like an open call can be made for the people who actually representing Pakistan from the youth. So they can join the different events and learn about from the other part of the world and also share their experience about the water.
But were you elected from Pakistan?
I am elected from Pakistan, but the World Water Forum, they actually opened the forum, like they selected like 30 people worldwide as a youth representative. 60 like from Indonesia. Total, 60 in total.
Okay, can you tell a little bit, because I think it's interesting. How do you select?
I really do hear out to your issues, but through the Bali Youth Plan, which has been our first such consolidated effort, we've tried hard to get as many youth to Bali. And in total, we've selected about 72 young representatives, out of which 30 are international and 30 are national. And we have about close to 45 from Asia Pacific. Now, the funds of this is always in question, but we were kind enough to have support from the government of Indonesia to get all of these 72 people to Bali. So I'm going to toss it back to all of you, especially the speakers, that maybe it's an opportunity for you to get more youth in the next forums. Because the best the host country can do is this as per budget constraints, but this platform can be open for as many as organizations. I mean, even if you get one youth like per organization, you will have about close to 1,000 to 1,500 young people representing different regions here. So as much as I understand the fact that representation is a problem, but it's not just with the youth or the organization, but it has to be an open call, an open invitation for everybody to participate. We have 20,000 people at the forum, many organizations, but if I'm going to try and pass the mic, that how many youth have you got? I'm sure some will take a back step.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Okay, yes.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Calderon. I am from the UNESCO Groundwater Youth Network and also a Bali Youth representative here. So thank you very much to Indonesia first. But I would also like to say that we are here at this BNDCC place, but there's other things going on in the political process. And in that political process, I think we only have one spot for the youth. So we only have one spot for the youth in the ministerial political process. So I would like to highlight that.
Yes, she's right. We only have one spot. And you know what? We only have one spot with a lot of difficulty this time. We have not even had one spot before this. So it's been a fight, and you're absolutely right. And we need to continue this fight. And the representative who's got a spot has been somebody who throughout the process of the forum has asked for a seat to get the Bali youth targets conveyed. So again, a lesson learned that when we come to One Water Summit or we go to UN, we try and increase these numbers and make this communication transparent. And this can not only just happen from youth to youth, but from organizations to their youth.
Yeah, very good. And that's a big issue I remember with organizing the UN 2023 Water Conference. There were many youth. Yeah. We tried, we did everything we could. But at the same time, and I remember personally, my LinkedIn message box exploded when we announced that we were going to do this UN conference. So I set up a fund in the Netherlands, and a team of 3 people, a very young, a not so young, not so old, and a very senior. And they were the hotline for everyone who would contact us, because it's very hard to say, so for representation, this is like totally nonsense. It doesn't work. But we wanted to make sure that every young person in the world that wanted to come could come. And we set up a fund without accountability, because we said the bureaucracy within the Dutch government that will have to check if you're actually applying for a ticket or not, forget it. So everybody who would send in their receipt would get the money. This is nothing about representation. There was no mechanism in place. But there was also not the question, do you represent a country or a community? They wanted to join the conversation and be able to take part, not to represent a larger group, but to represent themselves. And I think that is the difference that you make, which is also about how do we organize this institutionally. If at a certain point we want younger generations to be represented, is that actually needed, or should every organization, public, private, NGO or not, take care of that there is representation across society and across generations? And disciplines. Yeah, society, disciplines. So we're just in the beginning of a very long conversation that I close. That is the worst thing of moderator. I really want to thank you for sticking with us on touching upon the issues of young and intergenerational processes. Also, do know that with the Commission, we won't come up with a silver bullet on this, but the ingredients that we will capture will help, I hope, spark that conversation moving forward. With Juita, myself, and Liz here in the room, we promise you that whatever came also out of this discussion, but also I think the learning, I think we have to discuss how we can bring the learning from Bali. What are the, exactly what you say, you're here, but you're not in the ministerial and so forth. How those lessons can help entice the follow-up. Liz, you wanted to end. And I like the background music, so it's like we're almost in a bar. Yeah. Yeah, you wanted to end, right? With your call, or not? The video. Yeah, the video. Is the video, or first the video, or first you? First? Yeah.
Yeah, so
the world faces a...
Yeah, I just wanted to add something before the video plays. And this is, we're very much open to, different perspectives, like hearing, what different young people have to say from all corners of the world. I think when we listen, then that's when we're able to have ways to move forward. And I think what you're watching is an indication that this is beyond Bali. And I think that consistency and moving forward and making sure that once we get out of these walls, that the work still continues. So we have an opportunity to engage and to keep listening to, your voices, and, we speak together and sort of shape this together. So that's what the video is about, and an indication that this is actually beyond Bali, and we'll keep engaging. And we're also going to share ways in which you can interact and carry on this conversation beyond this. Thank you so much.
The world faces a growing water crisis, and it's not just a local problem. It's global and it's systemic. And this affects each and every single one of us, but particularly the women, indigenous communities, children, and the young people. So here's the good news. Young people have the power to change course and influence, and they're already doing it. The Youth Water Agenda is a transformative video series that delves into the heart of the water crisis. It's led by passionate youth champions and young leaders from all corners of the globe. And each video shines a light on critical issues and the realities on the ground, like how water security impacts food security, forests, innovations, communities, and much more. And here's where you come in. Each video concludes with a call to action, and we want to hear your voice on water for generations. So, are you ready to make waves of change and shape a future where water is a common good for all?
Thank you very much. There, I was waiting for the QR code. Scan the codes, join our movement. Thank you so much for being with us. Wish you a great World Water Forum. Thank you.